Hello, I'm Tina Packer. I'm the founding artistic director of Shakespeare and Company here in the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts, which means I have been here for 44 years working on the plays of William Shakespeare, and a good 10 before that. But working on the plays, I've directed them all except one or two. I have acted in another 8, and I've taught them all. So I feel as if I'm immersed in Shakespeare as a director and an actor and a teacher. But what I'm embarking on now is a new thing, which is a webinar series. So what I want to do in this webinar series is actually download my brain and tell you all the things that I've discovered about doing Shakespeare over these 44 years, and I hope that it's of interest and use to really anybody who's interested, but actors and directors and people that are kind of setting out on their journey to interact with Shakespeare. There's a reason why Shakespeare is the playwright done all over the world and translated into all languages, and really is that one of the what they call it, one of those icons that can unite us, and it's because he is such a deep thinker. So the lectures really follow the way Shakespeare looked at the world. He looked at the world, well, first of all, philosophically. There's a whole philosophy behind Shakespeare's plays, and not just one philosophy. There's the Elizabethan worldview that he came out of it, but then there's Platonic thought, there's the thought of the Gospels, then there's the way of the courtier, all these influences on his thinking and the way he looked at the world. Then you go to the political structures, because the plays aren't all about monarchies, which is what he lived under. There's a lot about the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire, or beginning of the Roman Empire. There's what happens when you go off to the forest and there's not a superstructure making you behave in certain kind of ways. So you look at Shakespeare's plays politically and you start seeing what happens under these different structures. There's also the kind of what's in the water. In other words, the whole of Women of Will is about how Shakespeare started getting how women had to behave under the patriarchy. And as he got more and more on their side, how they had voices to give us alternative ways out of the patriarchy, which I might say we are rather desperately in need of right this moment. So there was the philosophical, there was the political. But then there was the poetic, because he's writing in poetry and verse, and and prose. And it doesn't matter whether it's poetry or prose, there's still rhythms to what he's saying, rhythms to the way in which he's thinking. He's still tapping into the sounds of words. So, our emotional life, by and large, lives in the vowels. Our thinking, cognitive selves, lives in the consonants. And how he put these together, and how there's a deep alignment between the breathing, the sound of the words, the actor's emotional connection to them, and how it puts out there to the audience. So then there's the physical. And, what's the physical action? The plays are always in motion, even if it's Hamlet standing still. Internally, he's in motion. So there's always this, what is the physical life of the play? I think probably the most breakthrough of things that Shakespeare did was the psychological. If you start looking at how Shakespeare starts developing the psychological life of each individual character. He's really the modernist of modern playwrights. And so we look at that for a while. And then the last thing is the personal, because it's us human beings acting it, directing it, living in these plays. How does it affect us personally? And how do we bring our personal lives to what we understand of the text? So I'm really excited about this webinar series. This is a new form for me. I have not done webinar series before. So it's a new way of interacting with you on Shakespeare and downloading my brain and maybe acting a bit here, maybe even direct you through the camera. And I hope you'll join me, and I'd love to know as we go along what you think about the way in which it's happening, so that we could interact as well and see what the actor-audience relationship is between me and a webinar and you on the other side. Please join me.